Hi, this is Don Goldberg sitting in for Chuck Conconi for Focus Washington. And today we have with us Lonnie Stark from Adobe Systems, who's in charge of some of the government worldwide programs, specifically using social media with government agencies to try to communicate better to their constituents, to other agencies, and to the people that they need to talk to. So Lonnie, thank you for being here with us this morning.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Don.
Well, so tell me about social media and where are government customers, where are government agencies when it comes to adopting the technologies that high school kids, college kids, young people are using every day?
Well, social media and how to use it is one of the top questions I get from government agencies. And I think there's a large opportunity there for government agencies to use social media to better interact with citizens. I think first is social media has shown that you can use technology for warm and engaging interactions with citizens, which before there's been this myth that technology has been cold, but here it's warm and engaging. And I think with Twitter and Facebook, they can start to have those conversations, but also more importantly is to think about the principles and lessons from social media and how to apply it for key government business processes such as benefits enrollment, such as case management. So how do we take intuitive interfaces and apply it to the core parts of government agencies? And I think that's the real opportunity.
Well, that's a great issue because it's easy to have fun with social media, but when it comes to actually doing the business of government, which is perhaps a little bit more mundane, it's filling out forms, it's reaching out to people to understand their benefits. What are the biggest challenges that you see with government agencies, and what are they doing to address that?
Well, I think there's two levels of it. One is just having the policies and governance and leadership to work with social media. So how do we really transform the way we interact with citizens? So that's one aspect. And then there's a technology piece of it, which is understanding security, privacy, and also getting the design information, user experience knowledge to be able to re-engineer their front ends so that they're more intuitive. So when citizens fill out a form, they're not confused by legalese. They understand what's needed, and it's all based on their situation in their language.
Is there a specific government agency that you can talk about that's a good example that people could understand?
Sure, I think a couple here. In the U.S., I think one is the GPO. You might not think that that's
That's the government printing office.
That's the government printing office. And I like to give this example because it really shows a principle of social media, but not necessarily traditional like Twitter or Facebook. The government printing office, before they made their budget online and available and searchable in PDF, you had to literally go online, pay about $70 and wait several weeks to get a paper version of the documents. So with sort of principles of social media and immediacy of information, they now post it online. It's free. The access to the information is free, and I think it really supports, by using this principle of immediacy of information from social media, supports open government as well.
How does the U.S. stack up against some of the foreign governments that you work with? Are we behind the curve? Are we in pretty good shape there? Or are we ahead of people?
I think based on my opinion, but also on a lot of the e-government studies that have been done worldwide, I would say that we're in the middle of the pack. I think that countries have done a really good job is Australia, for example, that's made, their federal government has made investment and commitment to a shared services portal for both their business as well as their citizen portal. So it's like a one-stop shop that we all talk about worldwide, but they've made the investment not only in technology, but also in having a center of excellence, people who are knowledgeable in this area and can help both the large agencies as well as the small agencies deal with the challenges.
Now here we have a new president who's relatively young for presidents, and his campaign was really using social media to a large extent.
Absolutely.
Obviously far more than previous political candidates. And they come to the White House, and this is a big part of their agenda, open government. I know Adobe's had a lot of involvement and interest in working with agencies. Is that sort of setting the direction for some of the government agencies further away from the White House? Are they following the trend? Are they trying to figure out how to get this done?
I think that definitely has caused for a renewal in the opportunities of technology to really help and engage with citizens. I think the other factor that is driving a rethinking of sort of technology is the budgets. So because of the the decrease in budget, both from just moving from mandatory to, moving from discretionary to mandatory as people's services go up, but also the revenue base is decreasing, I think that's made agencies take another look at how can we provide engaging services but at a lower cost. And we know from all studies that the FTE for providing for online or even through call centers is cheaper than brick and mortar in agencies.
And let's go to some more of the fun examples. I mean, how are agencies using Facebook? Are they using Twitter much? The ones that we kind of all read about and see about, and those of us of a certain demographic are trying to play with.
Yeah.
How is that translating into government agency utility?
Quite a number of agencies have started to use Twitter as a way to post quick updates. So they still drive traffic back to their websites, to their blogs for the actual information, but Twitter to help people get the information out. In fact, I was just at a courts management show where they talked about courts even using Twitter. For Facebook, I've heard some state agencies have a couple of privacy issues with using Facebook. Others are starting to use it to also post up updates. But as you mentioned before, the core opportunity for agencies is still to look at their forms of enrollment processes and say, how do we take the same intuitive experiences that I use to poke a friend on Facebook, and how do I really make it possible for someone to easily enroll for services, but also to manage that person through it so that they become successful and eventually become self-sufficient.
So that gets around the security issue. I mean, one of the fears I think with Facebook is you've got a server outside of the government agency that you've got information on. But if you're talking about using forms development to engage and interact with your constituency, is that inside the government's firewall? Does that give them that security blanket that they need?
It does in a way that a lot of government agencies will either have a website where someone needs to authenticate to get access to the forms, or if they're open out there, they're blank forms so that people can actually fill them out. And I think it's important there because what's the point of using Twitter and Facebook if ultimately when a citizen is in need of critical services, it's great that you have Twitter, it's great that you have Facebook, but if they go to a website they cannot navigate, they have they're approached with forms and eligibility rules they cannot understand, then all the other investments in the traditional channels of social media do not lead to clear public value.
So we're moving this direction whether they want to go there or not, it sounds to me.
I think it's what's exciting is citizens are driving it. I think that people are ready, and I think government agencies can take a real leadership role in taking the lessons from social media and applying it to their core services, enrollment, and processing areas.
Great. Well, Lonnie, thank you very much for being here, and I hope you'll come join us again. Lonnie Stark from Adobe Systems. This is Don Goldberg for Focus Washington.